Okay, so as I said, now we're going to sew all the way around the outside edge of the mask. The mask has the right sides together, remember, and we don't have to worry about sewing too close or off the edges at all because this is all going to be on the inside of the mask now, right? And so when you get to the corner, even if you sew a little bit past 1/4 of an inch, you can back up a little. And sometimes I even like to just, double stitch a little on the corners so that I know that and I'll go backwards a little bit and then forwards a little bit so that I know that corner is locked good and tight. Sewing on the curves is a little bit not necessarily my favorite thing to do, but it works fairly well. Lots of the times your fabric has kind of been cut on the bias, and so it will be a little forgiving. And when you get to this seam on the middle across the mask, you're going to want to have, I always use a seam ripper or something like that, a stylus of some kind. Then I can move that fabric, that bulky fabric, like that bulk of the seam under through. You'll see I even sewed over a pin there, which I know we're not supposed to do, but I have an old sewing machine here that only cost me $3. It was a Viking portable sewing machine that was on a garage sale for $5, and there was a sign on it that said it needs a bobbin take-up. And I was like, I didn't know what a bobbin take-up was, but I was like, well, if it needs one of those, maybe I could talk this person down a couple of bucks. From the $5, I could talk her down to like $3. So I said, would you take $3? Because I don't know what a bobbin take-up is, and I'm not sure, but I'm game to try to figure it out. I love taking things apart and trying to fix them, and so she said no problem, fine, that's good, whatever. And of course, I took it home. I cleaned the machine out thoroughly. I oiled it, and there was no problem with it at all. It worked just fine. So I'm just like, well, I guess it didn't need anything at all. So anyway, it cost me $3. So if I sew over a pin, I always figure, I'm not out very much. Although this is like my favorite sewing machine ever. It's a Viking, and it'll last for a long, long time. I'm guessing because it was built in the 1960s or 70s, I think, actually, and it's still sewing great. It's awesome. See, I sewed over another pin. No. Anyway, I'm getting close to all the way around the mask. You see, I've already yacked my way all the way through, all the way around this mask. And I'm going to backstitch right at the end there when I got to the end of it. Then I'm going to clip off my tails that I had from the beginning. And then you see we've sewn all the way around the mask. This is the outside of the mask. That's going to be the inside of the mask. And we're ready to turn it. And the beautiful thing is you can turn it through these little cheek gaps here, these little inserts. But first I want to clip these corners off so that when I do turn it, I can get these corners out nice and square. And we won't have that extra bulk in the corner. So I trim those off a little bit. And then the first thing that I do is I flip the wings or the cheek pieces out. And then I'm doing a whole bunch of these at one time, right? And so I flip those out, and then I take a really, really technical tool. It's a spoon that's got a sharp corner on it there, and then I move that, put that up in the end, and then I can get my corners to come out nice and square. I push those corners out. You could use anything with a sharp corner like that. And I do the same thing on the other side, right? The other wing, I guess, right? Like so. And now once we've got that taken care of, then we can turn the whole mask inside out. So I've got the wings turned inside out now, but I need to do the mouth and the cheek part. And so you just take the whole thing and you flip it around like this, and then you pull that other cheek piece or that other wing part out through the other end. And then I pull on the top where those 4 pieces butted together at the top of the mask and the bottom of the mask. I make sure I pull that out tight and make sure that it's kind of finger pressed flat like that. And then turn the face part of the mask inside the curve, create that curve and wrap around. And there you've got the inside of the mask and the outside of the mask. And it's just ready for a little pressing and then sewing Well, I use these hair bands or hair ties for the ears on my masks, or for the yeah, the ears on the mask. And basically what I do is stretch that hair band out, and then you will just lap it over about that far, and then you fold it over like that, and you stitch right along there, stitch that down underneath there, and you do the same thing on the other side, and then you've got your finished mask, right? Some people don't press these, but I like to take them to the ironing board and press them out flat, so that I got a really nice crisp seam there at the top. And the finished product, or the finished mask, looks something like this, right? So you've got your elastic hair bands at the sides. They go over the ears, and then here in the middle, this is the inside of the mask. You've got a different color there, and then you've got that place where you can insert a filter if you want to. So you can get some kind of a filter and put it there inside the mask, a fiber non-fabric filter, a fibrous filter in there to hold it out. Another thing that you can do, and that I like to do, especially for myself because I do wear glasses, is to sew a stitch about halfway across. I can show you from about here on the across the nose of the mask. You'd sew it about 1/4 of an inch away from the edge, and then you can run a wire. And I like to use this. I think it's 16 gauge copper wire. I like to run inside there and put a little eyelet on the end of it. I use a needle nose pliers to do that, and then put a little eyelet on the end of it so it's not, sharp, and then run that up over the nose, because then you can actually bend that wire tight and make it snug kind of around your nose, so that you don't have any gaps or air holes, and you don't have that moist air going up and fogging up your glasses. But otherwise, you can certainly leave them just as they are. They're fine that way as well. I hope this was as clear as mud for you, and you are more adept at being able to put these all together. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.